Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video. Something happened over the past few days where some people have been sent their Lightfall Collector's Editions early. Obviously this doesn't mean you can play the game because this is Destiny and they have to upload everything online. It's not like a disc or something you're going to pop into your PlayStation. But this did result in a bunch of free emblem codes that were deciphered that went out widely that I wrote an article about. You can find those lots of places now. We don't know what the emblems are yet, I don't think, but they will show up when you activate Lightfall. But also this came with the physical lore books that usually accompany these large collector's editions. We've gotten a lot of really great info in those before. I forget what all of them were. We had Cade's Journal was one of them. I think there was a hidden Ikora reports was the Witch Queens. There's been a lot of these, and they are usually full of some really great lore stuff, while simultaneously not really being spoilers about the expansion to come. I think Bungie kind of recognizes that the collector's editions usually will go out, even by accident, a little early, and even if they didn't, I don't think they want to reveal a bunch of big plot points of the expansion in the lore books. It's just kind of meant as a run-up to it, with some interesting kind of character stuff, interesting world building, but is not like necessary for kind of understanding what's going to happen in the expansion, although I think we can derive some certain clues from this stuff, which is why I wanted to go through it. This is the page where there's PDFs of the three main books here. There's one about Osiris, one about Keitel, one about Elsie. You may have seen some of the Keitel passages already about Callus. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do a video on each of these, maybe over the next 3 days. My video time is a little limited, so I'm going to kind of do maybe shorter videos just about kind of the highlights of each of these, and I'm going to start with the Osiris one. These are on the Destiny 2 lore Reddit, and transcription by Crafty Crafter. Scans were from GoBoy. And so essentially the Osiris one is broken down into two parts where it's an alternation between Ikora having a discussion with her ghost. I don't know how to pronounce this. Ophiuchus? I don't know. I think it's some Greek word but this is Osiris's ghost name, or sorry, Ikora's ghost name. Osiris doesn't have a ghost anymore. And then there is a transcript where it has like contextual notes about the conversation, and then the interview between Osiris and Ikora. And the main point of this is it's pretty much Ikora trying to figure out if Osiris is trustworthy again, and if any of the corruption from Savathun remains. And there's some character stuff with Osiris here where it's clear that he's grieving and kind of scarred by this experience because, as we've seen in past lore, he was essentially kind of like trapped in his own body where he was like aware of what was happening but like unable to do anything or like tell people he was trapped. At one point, I forget where exactly this is, Ikora brings him the shell of Segura, and he gets really kind of broken up about it. And she says like, oh, how could I have ever believed the old Osiris was Osiris when like clearly this is the real Osiris. There's a little snippet about Osiris. She asks him like how things are between him and Saint, and he's like, it's fine. So things maybe not are fine between him and Saint in full, despite the touching little cutscene we got previously. So that might be some work they have to do going forward. But in terms of the actual story stuff, there's an entire section in here about how they currently have Savathun's body locked away, and there's a whole section about how the ghosts believe that it is impossible for Savathun to be resurrected, based on keeping the body away from her ghost Inaru, and that it means that she won't be resurrected. Except obviously the idea is that if there's even a chance she could be resurrected, that it feels like the story is moving in a direction where that's going to happen. Osiris is pretty deeply skeptical of the idea that Savathun can't be resurrected. She's like, you're dealing with the Queen of Lies here. And so they start talking about a contingency plan. So Osiris talks about how Savathun is scared of the witness. So this is one of the final entries from this conversation here. Ikora, this witness, I do not say this lightly, but it made her wary, not in the way she might have been of guardians who storm blazing into battle with power and conviction and no restraints. I still feel it, her concern, though I can give you no proof. And concern is exactly the type of thing she would lay contingency plans for. So the idea here is that Savathun is either purposely or accidentally, whatever, giving Osiris these visions of something on Neptune. It's been called the Hope on Neptune or something. And in this piece, they talk about how, they've scanned Neptune. Guardians have been there before and found nothing. Like, it's not like we've never explored Neptune before. So what Neomuna on Neptune, this entire civilization, this lost golden age, era civilization of humans is completely hidden from at least means where we can detect it. We do not know exactly how we do end up finding it. It seems like Savathun is the one that has the knowledge to unlock exactly how to get there. And I don't know if the witness finds it first and then we see them invading and then we go help them, or if we find it first and then because we go discover that someone follows us there, namely Callus. That would be bad, but we're debating on whether or not this is a trap, if this is Savathun working through Osiris, even after death to try to get us to Neptune. And the idea here is that Neptune is part of her contingency plan. Maybe it was for a backup plan against the witness, but in this case, the Guardians killed her, so it might be a backup plan for that. The idea is that she had some sort of contingency in place, in the event that maybe she's in the situation she is now, where she is dead, but potentially able to be resurrected. Something really interesting was the very end of this. So the Ikora's Ghost talks about, there's one other strangest I wanted to draw your attention to. Only one? Amusement colored his tone. I went back over the transcript, specifically Osiris's references to Inanna. Earlier he was talking about all these different stories of gods, and then Inanna was an ancient god who, I think she was Mesopotamian, who left the underworld and, ascended back to the realm of the living. But that's not really what happened. Osiris' reference to Inanna, I did a little research, and per the stories I have, Inanna never left the underworld on her own recognizance. Her life was taken back by other gods. Well, he wasn't entirely wrong either. It was just strange. Ikora tilted her head slightly, eyes unfocused with a distance of thought. I don't know how much the details matter, she said slowly, but it interests me that he fixed on Inanna after I mentioned her. I doubt ancient Earth myths are the practical highest priority right now for him, for any of us. All true. He fell silent. So I looked up Inanna, and I believe, let me look this up. I think Amaru is a different. Okay, I know it's the ghost, but I thought Amaru was a Mesopotamian god, also. But I could be wrong about that. The problem is when you Google Amaru now, it's only about this. Okay, so maybe that is not, but in any case, it is Inanna is a ancient Mesopotamian goddess, love, beauty, war, fertility. None of that is really relevant, but okay, so this is what I found interesting. Inanna's most famous myth is the story of her descent into and the return from the ancient Mesopotamian underworld ruled by her older sister, Ereshkigal. After she reaches Ereshkigal's throne room, the 7 judges of the underworld deem her guilty and strike her dead. 3 days later, Ninshubur pleads with the gods to bring Inanna back. All of them refuse her except Enki, who sends 2 sexless beings to rescue Inanna. They escort Inanna out of the underworld, but the guardians of the underworld, drag her husband Dumuzid down to the underworld as her replacement. He's permitted to return to heaven for half the year while his sister remains in the underworld for the other half, resulting in the cycle of seasons. Okay. I think the important part that stood out to me is the way she comes back is 2 sexless beings rescue Inanna from the underworld. And if if we're talking about the events of Lightfall here, we've been introduced to the Cloud Striders. They are, I don't know if they're supposed to be fully genderless, but we know that they are referred to as they, them pronouns. And I believe that they, Jedi Masters and Apprentices, I think they only exist in pairs, where there are 2 of them at a time. and there appears to be an older one and a younger one. And that seems like a whole lot of coincidence to me, that this, specific reference to Inanna that Osiris makes here, and then it's brought into question at the end, and then looking up the actual history of Inanna's escape from the underworld, that she's elevated by two sexless beings. You could see what I'm going for here, where maybe Savathun's plan for resurrection has to do with Neomuna, has to do with the Cloud Striders, where I don't know if she made some deal with them in the past, where should this ever happen, I need your help being resurrected, or if she's going to use them unwittingly. I'm not sure, but that seems like a little bit too much of a coincidence based on what we do know about the Cloud Striders right now, and how the story is referenced here. So that seems like something to me. And I believe, even though Savathun is not featured in any of the Lightfall promotional materials, she's not really talked about as part of the story, she's just dead right now, I do think, maybe not for Lightfall, the exact expansion, but I think in the coming year that we are going to see this story unfold, and I absolutely believe that Savathun will be resurrected by the time the Witness gets here. Again, I don't think this is the plot of Lightfall, and this will ultimately end, and Lightfall will end with Savathun being resurrected. Maybe, because we really don't know the base storyline other than we're fighting Callus's troops. But I could see that being, something that happens over the course of the season before the final shape. It seems very unlikely that we will face the Witness without Savathun. And at that point, yes, I believe Savathun would be an ally. The Traveler resurrected her with the lights. The Traveler clearly wants her to be an ally, even if we were intent on murdering her, which we did. But like any Guardian, she's only as dead as, her ghost. And because her ghost isn't dead, she's not dead. So this is where I think this is going. I think Savathun had some sort of escape plan based on Neptune, and the lore here, the Mesopotamian lore, seems to indicate that whatever's on Neptune, maybe the Cloud Striders themselves, could be a part of her plan to come back to life, to, escape from the underworld. I don't know if all this other stuff, her older sister Ershkigal is, Zivu Wrath or whatever, and then her brother, or her husband, I'm not going to say everything doesn't have a husband, the metaphor falls apart a little bit, but the general sense of things is this is where I think things are going based on this, and I found this really interesting once I was actually looking up the history of Inanna here. So that is kind of what I extracted from this. They conclude with saying, I guess we just gotta let Osiris roam around freely again, and we can't just keep him in prison. We don't know if he's, trustworthy or not in full, but as we know, he is one of the main NPCs for Lightfall. My other theory is that he is going to be our main kind of guide to Strand. Osiris has always been a, explorer of, multiple universes and whatever. It seems like we could be doing some sort of Strand research project with him or something that is what eventually leads us to Strand. So, Elsie Bray was our guide to Stasis. I believe Osiris will be our guide to Strand. And then maybe that is how he gets back some level of power with a new power that doesn't require a ghost, which Strand is technically a darkness power, so he wouldn't need a ghost for that. So anyway, that is my analysis of this first book. I have not read the other two books yet, so I don't know, other than the odd description of Callus's nipples, if they will be similarly interesting, but do recommend you read these. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.